So, so I've tried to make this video quite a few times, but I just watched it back and they're horrendously bad. I am Diana Woods, and I'm going to be talking about my experience with, the medical industry and my own illnesses and that kind of thing. So, I'm not going to go into too graphic details, like you won't see any, pictures, that kind of thing. But just in case, there might be a trigger warning of some sort, because there's a lot of like depression, borderline personality disorder references, PTSD references, anxiety references. Like I got all of it. But basically, when I was about 14, 15, probably 14, I started showing just signs of not being quite right. So my dad used to take me to Crumlin in Dublin, which is where I'm from, to just like check out my bloods were wrong and this kind of thing. My white cells were really low, my red cells were really low, blood cells. So I think in total I had about 4 or 5 bone marrow biopsies, because they thought it was leukemia for a while. And then we worked out that luckily it wasn't leukemia. It was this weird like thing that's happening with my head. Like, what? I'm Lady Gaga. Yeah, so went to that for a good few years until I turned like of age, and then we went to another hospital that's really close to my house. I probably shouldn't mention them, but I don't know if that's okay with them or not. But their staff were great, and I had a private room, and it was huge, and I was like, this is so sweet. And there was one nurse who used to come in every night that she was on duty for night duty and bring me, she'd get 2 hot chocolates and come in and stay in my room and like watch a bit of a movie with me or like go through magazines with me. She was super sweet. But in the end, it turned out my liver function tests, which is from a blood test, you can check that, had come back perfectly normal. And apparently, we didn't know this at the time, but sometimes when your liver has already like given up so badly, apparently it can give you like a regular reading on your blood test for your liver function results. It can look like everything's fine from the blood, but if they actually go in and look at your liver, it can be completely screwed. All this stemmed from autoimmune diseases. Most people just get one, and they get them either in their kind of mid-20s or when they're like a lot older, like 70s, that kind of thing. But I was about, I suppose I've always had it because you are born with it and then it kicks in later, but kind of kicked in at probably 15. And I had ulcerative colitis, like really bad. We tried every single immunosuppressant there is, even the ones that were like approved in America but not approved here. We even tried those. Nothing would work. And my blood count for some reason was so low that no matter how many transfusions I had of platelets, white cells, hemoglobin, iron, they'd be gone by the next day. And it all got turned into this horrible mess. I was like swollen up from steroids, all this kind of stuff. Eventually, when I was 17, I was born at the end of January, and in the summer of that year, no doctors would touch me, first of all, for surgery, because the slightest thing, they were like, she might not come out of it, even for like tiny things, like more biopsies, that sort of stuff. Like, just anything could have let me bleed out. And so there was a lot of confusion and all of that, because there are so many side effects, and we didn't know which side effects were from mental health and my situation growing up, because I have borderline personality disorder, which is apparently being turned into uh, the name is being changed, is like kind of considered with the newer doctors as PTSD type 2. But I also have regular PTSD. But aside that, anxiety and depression, all this kind of stuff, like and yeah, so it was hard to work out, especially with my insomnia, whether it was caused by my liver or if it was caused by psychological trauma from when I was a child. And we won't get too far into that because it's, I mean, if you want me to, you can comment and I'll think about it. But you know, I don't want to rat on like how it happened because it's to do with a family member and that. But so it was difficult to work through all that kind of stuff, and I went to hospital all the time. I was always in a wheelchair and on oxygen and had like 4 drips hooked up to me. Like, it was horrible. And fast forward, I had the biggest surgery you could do. I got a ileostomy, so which is the surgical procedure is called a colectomy, and an ileostomy is what you have from that procedure, and it's when your intestine comes out of the stomach wall. So it's outside, your intestine is outside your skin, and it goes into a bag, and you have this big scar on your stomach, and it's not the best for a 17-year-old who already has like major body issues and depression and shit. But yeah, so but I got used to the bag very quickly, and I also realized that if there are any girls listening, boys do not care. Like, I was like, oh, if I ever want to like hook up with a boy, like, I can't let him go from the waist down because, you know, he won't like me anymore, that kind of thing. It's not true. They're not, unless he's an absolute dipshit, they're not going to have a problem. You just go, oh, it's just like a medical thing. And they're like, oh, okay. Because, like, insulin, you have that little thing, and it's attached to you. My friend has it, and it's fine. They don't actually care that much about that, especially if you're already at the point of having your shirt off. But, yeah, so I had that big operation, and then the next year, almost to the day, for that first operation, I had to have like last goodbyes one by one with my family, which was pretty surreal is the only word I can use. I was in excruciating pain, like blinding blackout pain, where I apparently said things that I would never say, and just like I'm disgusted by it. But so there was one doctor on call that I was on OxyContin or Oxynorm for the pain, and they were either giving me like an injection in my booty, and pills, like regularly. They had me on morphine as well, but it doesn't agree with me. It makes my body heavy, but doesn't do anything to the pain. And then if they up it, I get really itchy. So morphine doesn't work for me. But yeah, one night when the pain was, you can't explain this kind of pain, and they say people can't remember pain, and I can't, but I remember my reaction to it, which was terrifying. Like, it was the worst thing I could imagine. And the doctor on call actually gave me IV Oxynorm or OxyContin, which you're not allowed to do, and she gave it to me a good few times, like every 15 minutes, which you're also definitely not allowed to do. But because my blood being low and and my liver not actually working, it turned out I had cirrhosis of the liver as well. That was the other autoimmune disease, sorry. She just, as soon as I started screaming, she would give me more, like, no questions asked. And like, that woman, I never saw her again, but the biggest angel ever. because you just can't understand the pain and the depression that causes mental and also physical pain. When it gets bad enough, depression causes physical pain. For me, anyway. But anyway, yeah, so the next year, and so everything was fine. Then I kind of got used to having the bag, dealing with it, that kind of thing. It's not something that's super hard to get used to. You do feel self-conscious about it. I still worry sometimes when I go out that it might leak, but I always bring a spare change of stuff. But I don't know. It's fine, really. But the next summer, again, almost to the day, I had to have it redone because the scar tissue was wrapping around it and strangling it, my intestines on the inside. And that was blinding, excruciating pain as well, and that kind of thing. And I did my rehab so fast, like, or a physical therapy rehab so fast, that I was working just so hard and like working up my breath, and I had a cough as well, which when all of your stomach muscles have been cut completely through, it hurts to cough. Like, wow. But the second time I saw the physiotherapist, I had been working so hard that I was able to go up and down the stairs and up and down them backwards. And she was like, I only wanted you to go up one flight. And I was like, but I did it. And then the third time, which was, again, almost exactly a year later, there's something that happened just being, it was, again, we had to redo the surgery because of some other kind of complication. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. I normally can, sorry. But, it took a lot longer to get over. It was about 2 months or something in there. And by accident, we didn't notice that I wasn't eating because I was on a lot of antibiotics at the same time. I was on like 4 antibiotics IV a few times a day or something, and that just killed my appetite. And no one really noticed for quite a long time, including me, that I wasn't really eating. And then everything else was fixed except for I was too weak to walk. And we realized that that was because I hadn't been eating in 2 months. And I shrank away. I'm 5'11", and I was so frail that, like, I can, like, fit my pinky and thumb around my wrist. I could do that, like, on every point of my body, pretty much. And I would just collapse if I went the whole way down the corridor, which is a short corridor. I would collapse and need oxygen, like, pumped into me. Scary stuff. But and then it got to a point where it hurt to eat and it made me feel sick, so I didn't want to eat. I would try, but then eventually, if I just heard the food coming, I'd start gagging and crying, and I was just so terrified of the pain of eating. So that kept me in there for a long time, but I did my best, and I made myself eat, and I got home. I got home still very underweight and all that, but, you know, I was working hard at it. Working hard. I was buying crisps every day. But, yeah, so that was the last kind of, like, major thing. Now they're all working on the smaller stuff, like trying to fix my blood. We're going to look into why I don't have an aunt called Chloe. All that kind of stuff. I get fevers sporadically a good few times a day, and if I go for a nap by mistake, even for 2 minutes, I wake up in a pool of cold sweat. Like, it's not fun. But yeah, there are a lot of, like, mini stories from that sort of thing that if you would like to hear about, I will tell you in the next video. I'm not really sure why I made this video, but yeah, hopefully if anyone else is going through, you know, intense insomnia that they've had since they were 8 years old, Bit of cough as well, thank you. Yeah, just comment or like or subscribe or anything if you feel like it. I know that this isn't a great video. I'll get better at it. This is just my first try. So, mucho lover, Diana Woods from Dublin, Ireland, and tune in next time if there is one, if you want me to.